Alright, welcome back to Attack the Track. This week we are here at Darlington in the trucks. Um, Very difficult track. One of my favorite tracks to run laps at and practice because of the technical aspects of it. Not a huge fan of the racing here. It's a little one-dimensional, one lane for me, and so not a huge fan of running it. I haven't run in the C-Fix race this week. I do plan to this weekend. But it is a very fun track. So here is the information. It is a 77-degree track temp, 20% usage, and that's the track info. I have found personally that a 14-to-1 steering ratio works best for me. 12 is a little too twitchy and I get a little too loose starting out. And so I've gone to 14-to-1 and I have lowered the brake bias down to 58%. If you're not used to lowering brake bias, it might get you at the beginning, but I would highly recommend dropping it. I think it's 62.5 at default, but I would drop that, and I went to 58. But learn to play around with the brake bias because if you're struggling for speed, especially late in runs, and you're wondering how guys are saving tires, that's how they're doing it. They're dropping their brake bias down because it'll help the truck turn. One more thing specifically for this track, you see all these black seams. If you don't see these, then you need to go into your options, graphics, and this anisotropic filtering. Turn this up as high as you possibly can. Turning this up is what gets these black seams to show up on the track, and you absolutely must be able to see these to run this track properly. If you don't, it's just not going to go well. I've used to run in VR, and I know some other guys that run in VR that have that turned down, and you just see a whole bunch of gray or a little bit of the seam here, but you really need to see the seams for this. And so please go and change that in your graphics settings so that you can see the seams. Now, for qualifying, I am not a qualifying guru, so my best is a 5.75. Top split guys that are getting pole are in the 3s. There's several in the 4s. I have absolutely no idea how they do it. So if you can find a video of somebody doing that, great. Watch it, see what they're doing. I've watched some videos of them and I still don't understand it. I feel like I'm doing exactly the same thing, but obviously I'm not. So take my qualifying for what it is. Now with a 5.75, I have looked at several of the races. In top split, it looks like this would be about P8 to P12, somewhere in there. But a lot of guys in top split aren't qualifying, which I find odd because to me Darlington is a track position track. Very much so. Yes, there's going to be wrecks and stuff, but you want to be out in front of it. So I find it odd that a lot of people in top split aren't qualifying. In second split and third split, 5.75 should get you P3 to P5, if not the pole, just depending on the session. I'm going to show you two different qualifying lines. I'm going to show you the one where I got a 5.75 and a 6.10. They are a little bit different. You will probably like one more than the other. And I've been able to get just as fast at times using this method as I did here. So there's just a lot of variance from run to run. And so one's going to be more to your liking than the other. But you need to know how to run both of them because these are kind of the two lines that you're also going to run during the run. So that being said, let's get into it here. And so I will show you the 5.75. So first we're going to go through the lap in far chase, and I'm going to pause it and break it down and show you everything that I want you to just kind of pick up on, and then we'll go through the lap in cockpit view, and so you can see what it looks like from there. So coming to the line, it is going to be your second lap, by the way. First lap, you want to get a good run out of 4. You don't do anything different on your first lap coming out because you're running the high line anyway, right? And so there's no funky stuff that you have to do. Just don't spin the tires, don't get loose. Make sure that you get a good exit coming out, and don't screw it up. Basically, there's nothing you can do to improve it. It's just don't screw it up. So when we're coming into one, you're going to be seeing this last red sign here, there's going to be, it's going to say like Coke on it. It's going to be you're going to sort of turn in at the red sign before that. So the last red sign before the one with Coke on it. Excuse me. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put your lefts right between the seam and the white marks here. So you're going to lift to about 70% ish. So you do lift, you never break in this turn throughout an entire run, but you lift to about 70%, and then you will get back to full throttle as soon as you can after. Don't just kind of hammer it down though, you've got to kind of feather it back up. And so starting the turn in, we're going to get our lefts right below that seam or right on that seam, starting to come up. You see I maybe went to 60% there, and I'm coming back up, and I am at full throttle as soon as I can be. Going to drift up. Now it's as high as you're comfortable going. I think the faster guys are going way on up here, but I noticed that it was getting a little bit looser on me, and I would rather run a little bit slower and more consistent than risk hitting the wall and not having a lap, right? Because it's your second lap, so you don't really have another chance to do it. Now, with it being full throttle, if you stay full throttle the entire time, you're going to carry way too much speed on the exit of 2, and you're going to hit the wall. So, before you get to this sign here, you're going to need to lift a little bit. You don't need to turn the wheel that much more, but what it's going to do is that lift is going to take the speed out of the truck, and the truck is just going to start angling down the track. Now with this, what you're aiming to do is this seam that the white lines are on that goes around, you're going to want to put your lefts on it, but not too early. A lot of people, they will go down here too early and try to ride the seam, and then you're going to end up getting tight and you're going to slide into the wall because you're carrying too much speed. So on exit, you want your lefts to be down there, but you don't want to get down there too early. I think that's where a lot of people have their mistake. So I lift out of it before I get to this sign here, and then when I'm comfortable that I'm not going to hit the wall, I am going to gas back up. So I'm back to full throttle, and see, I missed the seam. I was trying to get down to it, missed it a little bit, but I'm getting down to it after the last white. See, it's kind of just black after that, and so you don't want to get down there too early on that, and full throttle here. Now, I've only been running solo. You are going to carry a little bit more speed into 3 and 4 if you're running behind another truck during the race. And so for qualifying, this is going to be it. You may need to back this up a little bit if you're going to be behind a truck, because you're definitely going to be carrying more speed and you're going to be a little bit tighter. So just keep that in mind. So right here, everything kind of starts, you see where the wall like goes, and then it kind of juts out and then back in. And so you're going to need to pay attention to this the entire race. For qualifying, I think that's a cookout sign that's right there. We're going to start braking at the red marker right before that cookout sign. And one thing you can do here is see the wall is starting to go to the outside. You can kind of turn right a little bit and follow it to try to get like a better entry here. So we're at that sign, so I'm on the brakes. You notice I'm not on the brakes a lot. If you put your brake bias down to 58 and you're like starting to spin and immediately turn into the left, then you're braking too much. And so just be aware of that. If you're getting really loose there, then you're definitely braking too much. You don't want to brake a whole lot here, and that's why lowering the brake bias is going to help, is because it's going to turn the truck more than it's going to slow the truck down. And that's kind of what you're doing here. And so you're just gonna go, and now notice I'm rolling. Before I'm to the sport clips, I'm not even braking anymore, not on the gas, just kind of rolling. And what I'm looking at here is I'm gonna stay in here, but the Darlington sign is kind of when things are gonna pick back up. It's a little bit before that because it's qualifying. I'm trying to get everything out of it I can. So see, it's before it looks like I'm at the Myrtle Beach sign right here when I'm picking back up. But for the most part, Darlington sign kind of in your head is where things are going to start happening during the race. And I'm just trying to give it as much throttle as I can. I'm looking at this seam here, and that's where my exit is going to be. And you just kind of play with it, get full throttle as soon as you can, and I'm looking at this seam here. So that is how I ran my fastest time, and let's go look at that in cockpit view. You the run up to it as well. All right, so the second way, excuse me, 1 and 2 is exactly the same. So we're still going to go through here. We're going to turn in at the last sign. We're going to put our lefts down here. I'm going to throttle back up 100%, get pretty close to the wall here at the Darlington sign. I do end up going a little bit higher, I think, here. Still full throttle. Going to let off right before we get to this. It's going to help turn the truck down a little bit, and then when we can get back to full throttle, we're going to, and get a runoff. So 1 and 2 is exactly the same. The difference in 3 and 4 here is what we're going to do is, instead of trying to stay high like the entire time, we're going to do more of a V. So we're going to enter a little bit lower, have our lefts more closely aligned to this seam here, and then go up closer to the wall and then back down. Remember, our lefts stayed above the seam on exit. Now they're going to cut down below the seam. So you're kind of doing a little bit more of a V shape. So still braking at the same point. So I've got a little bit of a sharper angle here. I'm rolling, getting close to the Darlington sign. We're coming up a little closer to it this time. But what this allows us to do is, see, I'm full throttle kind of earlier, and so it's a little bit less throttle control, and I'm cutting down below the seam. Remember, I was above the seam here. And so you have to feather the throttle a little bit less with this method, and so you might find it easier to drive on exit, and that may be your preferred line, is to kind of enter lower, go all the way up, and then come back down, and that just may be more comfortable. Now, the reason I say you need to know both is because even if you're more comfortable with one, there's going to come a time in the race where there's a truck somewhere where you need to go, right? Hold on. Before we get into all that, let me just show you 3 and 4 from cockpit view here. Cut down a little bit, come all the way out to the wall. We're already full throttle, but we're back down, straddling that seam and coming out. But see, if you want to do that and cut down here, and there's already a truck here, you need to know how to run above this seam to get that exit, right? And vice versa, if you're used to running out there and there's a truck that got in the wall and they're running out, you need to know how to cut down. And because the track is so difficult, you may have the idea entering 3, hey, I'm going to cut down. And what's going to end up happening is there's just going to be something with the truck. It's not going to feel right. And before your exit of forward, like before you start getting to the corner, you're like, oh, that cut down's not going to work, even if you're running by yourself. And then you can just adjust to the other, right? So you kind of go in with a plan, but you've got to change the plan, or else you're going to spin out or something like that. So you've got to be able to be dynamic and not have a set, this is the mark that I'm going to hit this lap, because it's just not going to work every time. That's why this track is so difficult. So for the races, C fixed is 40 laps. A full fuel run is 57 laps. Now I did a run as hard as I could go, and then I did another run saving. The differences were by lap 10, when I was saving, I was 2.1 seconds down from running flat out. That was the biggest gap that it got. Uh, then at lap 10 to lap 15, I was running roughly similar times, and then the saving tires really started to gain after lap 15, and I was running faster laps after 15. Now it took all the way until lap 30 before I broke even on that. So even in a C-fixed race with 40 laps, it is worth your while to save tires. Um, Now, if there's a wreck 20 laps in, you go and get tires, then no, obviously don't save, and you want to go at that point. Um, but even though I broke even at lap 30, by lap 40, I was 2.2 seconds ahead by saving tires. So it when it flips, it flips hard. And so I was 2.2 seconds ahead at lap 40, but by lap 57, I was 6.4 seconds ahead by doing the saving tire method. And so it's like compound interest, it just kept getting better and better with time. And at the end, I was running 0.2 to 0.3 laps faster per lap. And so we'll go into that. The lines aren't any different. Really, the only difference, I'll show you like lap 3 of me saving. There's going to be two major differences here. The first is going to be that your entry to 1 is going to be the same, but remember how we would go back up to full throttle? We're never going to go full throttle between 1 and 2. One other difference is, remember, I was lifting to about 60 to 70%. I'm lifting to about 30% here. What that's going to do is when you hit in this little dip right here and come up, it's not going to be as big of a bounce, and so it's just going to help settle the truck a little bit more, and you're not going to get as much of that right rear burn and get that hot. So it's just going to balance that out. You lift to about 30%, and then I get back up to about 70% or so. Where I tried to hit was when we were going full throttle and we let off. I just try to stay at that part the entire time. So you can see I never get full throttle, and then the truck just kind of turns down, and then you can go away. Now I could have full throttled it a little bit earlier here, but I was super early in the run and trying to save as much tire as I could. But the true saving is coming from not going full throttle here. So if you want to get a little bit more aggressive on exit, you can do that. That's fine. I was just super early in the run, didn't want to do it. The difference in 3 and 4 is I am starting to brake where the wall starts to cut out. Remember, for running fast, I was all the way up here. Here, I'm going at this red marker here. You do have to be careful super early in a run. If the trucks aren't spread out yet and somebody's right behind you, you will get run over doing this. But if nobody's right behind you, it's a fantastic way to save tires, because once a truck picks a line on entry, and say they picked to go behind you, and they're not going to run you over, it's going to kill every single bit of momentum that they have. You're going to get a better exit, and so you're going to have a better front stretch, and they're going to yo-yo with you on entry, but all they're doing is burning up their tires, and you're getting the better exit, and they're never going to pass you doing that. So by doing this, it makes sure that you don't hit the wall. It's a much safer, much easier drive, and it doesn't give it up anything on your exit speed. So I'm starting to brake right where the wall cuts out, right here. And I personally like to cut down and put my lefts here. It can be a little bit faster if you're going up to the high line, staying around this seam, straddling it. But the reason I don't do that is it takes more throttle input, and if you mess up and you hit the wall, you're basically done at that point. So this is a little bit safer. It gives me a little bit more time to see if I'm going to slide out to the wall or not, and I can adjust my braking accordingly a lot easier. So to me, it's a lot safer way to drive. And then again, on exit, it's just kind of feel out what the truck is doing, right? If the truck scoots up in the middle higher than you expect it to, well, you inadvertently ran the V, right? And so you know you're going to cut down a little bit lower. If you kind of hang around this seam a little bit and you're carrying more speed, but you're a little bit lower, then just run the seam, like we did before. And so really in the middle of the turn, you've got to feel what the truck is doing and then adjust accordingly from there. But the entire thing to saving tires is to not full throttle between 1 and 2 and brake earlier in 3 and 4. And I never had to adjust my 1 and 2. I ran it exactly the same. I may have lifted all the way to like 10% on entry to 1 the last 5 laps or so. May have started doing that. I didn't have to back up my entry to 3, but I did start to move the brake bias down. About every 15 laps, I would move the brake bias down for about, or it would be 1% every 15 laps or so. And so that is how I plan to attack the track here at Darlington. And if you do the same, hopefully you'll have some good luck.